So this was like maybe 2 or 3 months into sophomore year. Just another regular morning. I wasn't even fully awake yet. You know those first period classes where half the room's still halfway asleep and the lights feel too bright? That was earth science for me. I always sat in the back row corner seat. Same spot every day, same routine, until Devin walked in. He had that new kid energy, but not the shy, scanning the room kind. He just marched in, no hesitation, wearing this baggy hoodie and this weird, patchy facial hair that looked like he was trying way too hard. Mr. Bronson, our teacher, loved making a show out of new students, always cracked a joke or two, made them say where they were from. Devin just shrugged and gave short answers like he wasn't here to be anyone's friend, which would have been fine. That's usually how it goes with transfer kids. They keep to themselves at first. But then he made a beeline for the seat next to mine, the only one left, and sat down like it was already his. No looking around, no hesitation, just dropped his bag, leaned back, and started talking to me like we'd been sitting together all year. I remember thinking, did I miss something? The way he jumped into the conversation felt off, like too confident, too familiar. There wasn't any small talk buffer. He asked stuff, joked around, even mentioned how chill I seemed right off the bat. I told myself maybe he was just nervous. New kid, first day, probably just trying to connect. So I didn't think too much of it in that moment. But looking back, that first interaction was already a little too much. Too close, too soon. I just didn't know yet how strange things were going to get. It was one of those half boring, half comforting days at school. Nothing really happening. Just waiting for the weekend to roll around. Lunch came like it always did, and it was just me and Tyler that day. Our usual group was scattered, some in different lunch periods, some probably skipping, so we were posted up at our regular table, the round one by the back wall, just minding our business, kind of talking, kind of zoning out. Then I felt that weird shift. You know that feeling when someone enters your space and you can't explain why it suddenly feels smaller. I looked up, and there he was, Devon, holding a chair like he already belonged. He didn't ask, didn't even pause, just dragged the chair over, dropped it next to me, and sat down like it was a done deal. Tyler's face changed instantly. Not rude, just confused. Like, who is this guy and why is he here? And I didn't know what to say. Devon had already talked to me in class, already gotten my number for that dumb earth science project, so now he'd decided we were lunch buddies too. He jumped right into conversation like he'd been part of it. But the way he talked, man, it was off. Not just loud or awkward. He was constantly trying to say stuff that would shock us. Jokes that weren't jokes. Sexual, violent, just out-of-pocket stuff. Like he was trying to push limits or see what he could get away with. Tyler was polite at first, but I could see it in his eyes. He was already over it. I told myself maybe Devon was just trying too hard. Maybe it was nerves, or he hadn't found his crowd yet. But even then, deep down, I was starting to realize this didn't feel like a phase. It felt like something else. Fridays always hit different. That weird little sense of freedom creeps in during the last class, and by the time the final bell rings, you're already halfway into weekend mode. I remember I was feeling pretty good, just casually heading home, texting the group about maybe meeting at Tyler's later. Nothing urgent, just that low-stakes end-of-week vibe. And then my phone buzzed. It was a number I didn't recognize at first. I didn't even pause to connect the dots, just opened the text out of habit. It said, "Turn around," and I did. That's when I saw him. Devin, jogging toward me from down the block, like it was some kind of reunion. No heads up, no question if it was cool to walk with me, just assumed. He caught up and said something casual about how he lived nearby, like that explained it. And before I knew it, we were walking together. At first I played along, told myself it wasn't that weird. Maybe he just didn't know anyone else. Maybe it was harmless. But then he started asking what I was doing that night. Not in a chill, curious way. More like checking his own schedule against mine. Like I owed him plans. I brushed it off, said I might be at Tyler's later, kept it vague. I figured that would be the end of it, but he kept walking with me, block after block, right up to my front steps. He didn't ask to come in, or anything, but he stood there for a second too long, like he was expecting something else, like he didn't get the hint. I went inside and locked the door, trying to shake it off. But that walk, That wasn't mine anymore. It felt like I'd just handed something over without meaning to. Something I couldn't name. That night felt normal, quiet. My parents were out, my sister was probably at her boyfriend's place, and I was just upstairs scrolling through YouTube and group chats, waiting to hear back about whether we were still going to Tyler's later. I wasn't thinking about school or Devon or anything really. It felt like I had finally shaken that weird energy from earlier. Then my phone buzzed again. It was Devon's number. I hadn't saved it, but I remembered it now. He said something like, "Yo, what's with the cop car outside your house?" And my heart immediately started racing. I don't know why. It was such a specific thing to say. My brain jumped to every worst-case scenario in a split second. I shot up and went to the front window, barefoot, still holding my phone, expecting to see red and blue lights. There was nothing. Just Devon, standing at the end of my driveway, arms crossed, smiling. I stood there frozen, not even mad at first, just confused. I opened the front door but not the screen. I looked at him through the glass, and he just stood there with that stupid grin like it was all hilarious. Like he'd pulled off some genius prank. I didn't know what to say. I let out this half laugh without meaning to, but inside it was more panic than anything. He didn't say much, just kind of nodded like, "Yeah, I got you." Then he slowly turned and walked off. I didn't even go after him. I just stood there watching him disappear into the dark, trying to figure out what had just happened. That wasn't a joke. Not really. That was him seeing what I'd do, and I hate that I gave him exactly what he wanted. It's weird how certain sounds stick with you. The back doorbell at our house rings different from the front. Sharper, a little more high-pitched. We barely ever used it. Like ever. So when it rang that night, it cut through everything. I remember sitting on my bed watching something on my laptop, kind of zoned out, and then ding just once. For a second I thought maybe it was my sister. She sometimes forgot her keys, or maybe my parents got dropped off out back or something. I got up without thinking, walked downstairs. The kitchen light spilled just enough into the back hallway to see that the yard was completely dark. No porch light, just blackness behind the glass. I stepped closer to the door, looked through the window. Nothing. No one. Just empty space and that heavy stillness that hits you when you realize you're not alone, even if you can't see why yet. I was about to chalk it up to a delivery guy hitting the wrong bell or something, when I heard it, this slow scuffing sound like a shoe dragging over concrete, off to the side, just out of view. I didn't open the door. I didn't even move. I just stood there, barely breathing. Then my phone buzzed in my pocket. I knew it was him before I even checked. Devon. I didn't pick up. I couldn't. A few seconds later a text came through. "Come outside." That was all it said. Just that. I stared at it, rereading it like it might somehow mean something different. But it didn't. He was out there. In my yard. Hiding. Waiting for me to step out. That moment hasn't left me. It doesn't matter how many days pass. That doorbell still rings in my head. It showed up on a Sunday. That part sticks with me because Sunday's supposed to be the quiet day, the reset button before everything starts again. But this wasn't normal. It wasn't an Amazon box or something from a relative. It didn't even have a name on it. No shipping label. No return address. Just this small taped-up box sitting dead center on our front step like it had been placed there carefully. I wasn't even expecting anything, but curiosity got the better of me. I brought it inside, opened it in the kitchen while no one else was home, and inside, there it was, a small plastic astronaut figure, cheap-looking, like something you'd win from a claw machine or grab at a museum gift shop. On its own, it meant nothing, but as soon as I saw it, my stomach sank, because I remembered exactly where I'd seen it before. On one of the first slides in Earth Science the day Devon got introduced to the class, some corny NASA-themed slide the teacher used as an icebreaker. No one would have thought twice about it, except Devon. It wasn't a coincidence. It couldn't have been. He was the only one who would have connected that detail to me, and that meant he was still watching, still thinking about it. About me. I sat there just staring at it for way too long, like it was going to change or mean something else the longer I looked. But it didn't. It was just a message, a quiet one, not a threat, not a note, but still loud in its own way. And the thing that rattled me the most, I never gave him my address. No one did. I never said where I lived. Somehow, he found out, and I couldn't stop wondering how long he'd known. By Monday morning, everything felt different. I hadn't slept much the night before, and even walking into school felt off, like the walls were holding on to something that hadn't fully settled. I had already shared everything. Texts, screenshots, every creepy moment with my friends and my parents. I emailed the school counselor too, half expecting them not to take it seriously. But they did, or at least they said they would. I heard they contacted his guardians. Whatever that meant, no one sat me down or followed up with some official explanation. It was more like whispers, bits and pieces I caught in hallways, or from kids who knew someone who used to go to Devon's last school. Stuff about him moving a lot. Stuff about him doing similar things before. No one had the full story, not really, just scattered pieces, and none of them made me feel better. And then he was gone. No warning, no confrontation, he just didn't show up. Not that day, not the next, not ever again. It was like he'd been edited out of the school. No goodbye, no reason, just disappeared. Like the part of the movie where the villain vanishes before the end, and you're left staring at the empty space where they used to be. For a while I kept waiting for the other shoe to drop, for him to pop up again in some other way. A new number, a message from a burner account. Something, but nothing came, and yet I still check sometimes. I still wonder, not because I miss him, God, no, but because there's this part of me that doesn't believe it's over. He got too close, too fast, knew too much, wanted something, and I still don't know what. Maybe I dodged something, or maybe it's just paused. Either way, I never got to understand the why. So, it was one of those crisp, early September mornings. You know, the type where the air still smells like summer but everything else screams back to school. I was dragging myself into Marlow Regional, our small-town combo middle and high school, for what was supposed to be my second shot at senior year. Yeah, I got held back. Long story. Point is, showing up again felt like wearing a giant sign that said failure, especially when you know everyone. Literally, same classmates since grade 6. Same gossip, same teachers pretending they don't remember how badly you tanked your exams. Anyway, I went to first period study hall. I wasn't even paying attention to who else was in the room at first, just trying to mentally survive the day. But then I noticed him, sitting across the room, someone I didn't recognize, which was weird because that just doesn't happen here. His name was Eli, said he just moved to town, looked my age, maybe a little younger, hard to tell. He seemed off, but not in a way I could pin down. He wasn't rude or anything, just too curious, asking all these weirdly personal questions like how long I'd been at Marlow, what classes I had, what street I lived on. And yeah, he straight up asked for my address, like it was no big deal. I kind of laughed it off and didn't give it to him, obviously. But then for some reason I gave him my Snapchat. I don't even know why. Guilt? Pity? Habit? It's been months and I still can't figure out what was going through my head. All I know is, from that moment on, everything felt wrong. Like I'd opened a door I didn't realize existed. Last period of the day, English class. Not the cool, honors-type English. This was the low-tier group, the kind of class you get shoved into when you've bombed enough assignments to be considered academically at risk. There were maybe 9 of us total, and the vibe was always weird. Half the people didn't want to be there, and the other half were barely awake. It felt less like a class, and more like detention with books. That's where I saw him again, Eli. Same guy from study hall. He was sitting at the far end of the room, kind of hunched over, eating the most disgusting sandwich I'd ever seen. I couldn't even tell what was in it. Something wet, something pale, the kind of thing that smells like it's been out since lunch the day before. I remember feeling nauseous just catching a whiff of it, but it wasn't just the sandwich that made me uneasy. He was staring at me, and I don't mean glancing or people watching or bored daydream kind of looking. I mean full-on, locked-in, zero-blinking type of stare. I tried to brush it off. We've all zoned out and accidentally looked at someone too long, right? But then he did this motion with his fingers, waving me over, subtle but direct. Like we had some secret plan I'd forgotten about. I didn't move, just kept my eyes down pretending to read. Then he did it again, slower, more deliberate. That time I felt something tighten in my chest. I convinced myself I was just being paranoid, overthinking it. Then my phone buzzed under the desk. A Snapchat from him. It said, "Follow me." That's when I knew this wasn't just weird. It was intentional, deliberate, and it was only just starting. So after that snap, "Follow me," he got up from his seat, walked right over to the teacher's desk, and asked to use the bathroom. Casual, like nothing was weird. And I just sat there trying to act like I wasn't completely thrown off. But the thing is, I couldn't stop thinking about it. I kept asking myself if I was reading too much into things. Maybe it was a bad joke, or he was just awkward and trying to make a friend in the most uncomfortable way possible. A few minutes passed, and I decided I had to know. I raised my hand and asked to go too. Figured I'd just walk the halls for a minute, clear my head. I didn't expect to actually see him again. But I did. He was at the far end of the hallway, the dead zone past the lockers, past the classrooms, where the fluorescent lights flicker and the floors always feel slightly damp. That part of the building nobody uses unless they have to. Old storage rooms, busted equipment, maybe a staff bathroom or two. He was walking slowly, like he wasn't in a rush to go anywhere. Almost like he was waiting for me to catch up. I didn't. I kept my distance. Watched him from maybe 30 feet back. Then he turned a corner and stopped in front of a door. Without hesitating, he opened it and went inside. I knew that door. It led to the basement. I just stood there, staring. I wasn't about to go in after him. I don't care how curious I was. Something about it felt wrong. Like that door wasn't meant to be opened casually. Like something waited down there. I turned around, walked back to class like none of it happened. But it did, and it wasn't over. Not even close. It was the day after. The whole weird sandwich thing, the basement door, all of it still kind of clinging to the back of my brain like a bad dream I hadn't fully shaken off. I was scrolling through Instagram during lunch, trying to drown out everything with pointless posts and half-funny memes, when I saw the school had uploaded some photos from orientation week. Just a bunch of random shots. People standing around outside the gym, fake smiles, teachers pretending they were excited to be back. And then I saw him. Eli, clear as day, standing in the background of one of the group shots. He wasn't looking at the camera or talking to anyone, just sort of there. Stiff posture, blank face, like he'd wandered into the frame by mistake. I paused, stared at it for a solid minute. Thought maybe I was just imagining things. But I swiped to the next photo. It was taken maybe 5 seconds later. Same group, same angle. Nothing changed, except Eli was gone. Just not there anymore. Like he'd vanished. And what made it worse, no one else in the photo seemed to have noticed. I actually asked a couple kids who were in it. Just casually, "Hey, who's that guy in the first pic?" But they looked at me like I was making it up. One of them said they didn't remember anyone standing there at all. I went back to check the post again later, and the comments were turned off. Not that there were many to begin with, but still, it felt like someone didn't want people asking questions. By the end of the day, the whole post was gone. It's dumb, maybe, but that rattled me more than anything else up to that point. Like he was real, but not in a way the world was willing to acknowledge. That night was supposed to be normal. Just another boring evening of catching up on assignments I'd already procrastinated too long. My parents were out, dinner with friends or something, and I had the house to myself. Not a big deal. I'd done it 100 times. Just me, my laptop, a stale energy drink, and a stack of half-finished worksheets. I was halfway through some English notes when my phone buzzed. Snapchat notification. No big deal until I saw the name. "Why didn't you come down?" I didn't need to open it to know. It was him, Eli, or whatever version of him that was now behind a screen. I blocked it immediately. No hesitation. Then another one popped up a few minutes later. "Why'd you block me?" Same game, different handle. I blocked that one too, even though my stomach was starting to turn. I didn't want to keep playing, but I didn't know how to stop either. That third one though, It's the one that made something in my chest lock up. I know where you live. Then another, check your window. And then no joke, I heard it. A sound I knew instantly wasn't part of my imagination. Glass. Breaking. Downstairs. Like someone had just thrown something through it or shoved their way in. My body just snapped into this automatic panic mode. I grabbed my phone, barely able to think straight, and dialed 911. I don't even remember what I said to the operator. Just that someone was trying to get into my house, and I was alone. They told me to hide, find a safe place and wait. That was it. No comforting words, no assurance it was a prank. I didn't stop to argue or think it through. I just moved, because suddenly it was real and way too close. I don't even remember choosing the hallway closet. It wasn't smart, it wasn't strategic. It was just the closest door I could pull open while my hands were shaking. It's small, barely more than a narrow cupboard stuffed with coats and some plastic bins of winter gear. The kind of place you hide in when you're a kid playing tag, not when someone's actually in your house. But I folded myself in, knees to chest, and eased the door shut. No lock, just me and a slab of cheap wood between whatever was out there. My breathing was too loud. That's all I could focus on. It felt like I was trying to inhale the entire closet. I held my breath, then exhaled too fast, then held it again, stupid, panicked cycles. And then I heard him. Footsteps. Slow, not cautious, not like someone trying to sneak. Just steady, purposeful. He knew where he was going. Every step closer made the air feel heavier. I cracked the door just barely, just enough to see. There he was, Eli. At the far end of the hallway, standing in the dark like he was waiting for something to move. He didn't scan the space. He didn't look around. He just stared, and then he turned his head toward the closet. I froze. I mean completely. I don't even think my heart beat in that moment. He walked closer, stopped right outside. I heard him fumbling around for the light switch, clicking it on, off, on again, like he couldn't quite decide if he wanted to see me. Then he gave up. I stayed still long after his footsteps faded. Only when I heard pounding on the front door. The cops did I even let myself breathe again. By the time they searched, he was gone. They found the basement window open. Of course it was. I barely slept that night. I kept expecting more footsteps, another window breaking, another snap. But morning came, somehow, and I did the only thing I could think of. I went straight to the principal's office. Walked in before first period like I had a perfectly normal reason to be there. I remember standing in front of his desk, my voice shaky but trying to sound composed, laying it all out. The study hall, the English class, the hallway, the basement, the house, everything. I expected him to look concerned, confused, maybe even annoyed. But what he said just froze me. There was no Eli, not on any attendance sheets, no enrollment forms, no locker assignment, no class schedule, nothing. It was like the guy didn't exist. I pushed back. I saw him. I talked to him. I followed him through the halls. But the principal just looked at me like I'd told him a ghost story. Eventually they pulled the security footage. I don't know what I was expecting. Proof, maybe? Closure? But what I got was worse. The cameras showed him just barely slipping in through a side door around first period. He blended in, found a desk, acted like he belonged, and no one questioned it. Not a teacher, not a student, no one. I've never seen him again. No one followed up, not the school, not the cops. It was like the whole thing got quietly buried. And the weirdest part is, I don't even know what I want to believe. That he was real? That I imagined it? Both options feel like they mess with my head. I keep thinking about that basement door, what he wanted me to see down there, or maybe who was supposed to see me. I still don't have answers, just questions I can't shake. And honestly, I'm not sure I want to know anymore. I was a senior when this happened, right in that weird part of the year when you've mentally already checked out, but you're still showing up because, well, you kind of have to. Senioritis had kicked in hard. Everything felt like filler. Our school, Easton High, wasn't exactly a hub of excitement. I mean, if you've ever lived in a town where the only Friday night entertainment is a high school football game, you get it. It wasn't about the game, it was about having somewhere to go that wasn't your room or the same dead-end fast food spot. I had this elective class that was basically just attendance-based. No one really tried, not even the teacher, and I honestly couldn't tell you what the course was supposed to be. But the real reason I liked it was because Marcus was in there with me. We've been tight since middle school, the kind of friend who'll talk you into doing dumb stuff but always make sure you're not alone in the aftermath. We spent most of the class goofing off, whispering jokes, drawing on desks like we were still 12. That Friday it was game night. Everyone knew the routine: pre-game hangouts, pack the bleachers, maybe sneak something to drink and just ride out the night. Marcus said we should ask Bree and Taylor to meet us there. We already knew them pretty well, so it wasn't weird or anything. And just like that, with a lazy half-turn in his seat and that cocky grin he always wore, he got them to say yes. I don't know how he did it. He never tried too hard, he just had that thing. I didn't know it yet, but that night was going to spiral into something none of us could explain. Not then. Not now. After school let out, Marcus pulled up in that busted old Honda he always swore was reliable. I hopped in, and we drove out to pick up Bree and Taylor. They were already waiting on the curb when we pulled up, kind of laughing, kind of nervous, probably wondering what kind of night it was going to be. Truth is, we didn't know either. Marcus had a couple bottles of Mad Dog stashed in the trunk. Don't ask me why. That stuff was disgusting, but it hit fast, and it was cheap. We poured it into some old Gatorade bottles we found under his seat because, yeah, that's the kind of high-class operation we were running, and parked in the back lot behind the school. That lot always felt abandoned, like no one bothered to check it, which made it perfect. By the time we crossed the field and climbed to the top of the bleachers, the stands were already half full. We took the very back row like we always did. It gave the best view of everything, even if we didn't care about the game. I honestly don't even remember who we were playing. All I remember is how fast it got dark and how none of us were really watching anymore. We were in our own little world, laughing too loud, getting buzzed, passing the bottle without being too obvious about it. The game didn't matter. We were losing bad, and people started leaving before the fourth quarter even started. I remember watching the bleachers empty out in patches, like slow bleeding, but we stayed, not because we were into it, just because maybe we didn't want the night to end yet, or maybe on some level we already felt like something was off. We just didn't know it, not then. The game ended with a thud. No celebration, no final push, just a slow, quiet trickle of people making their way off the bleachers like they were embarrassed for even showing up. We didn't move right away, just kind of hung around, not really saying much, letting the buzz carry us. Eventually we wandered toward the back of the field, that area behind the end zone near the tree line and the fence. That's where kids always snuck through to get into the woods. It wasn't some big mystery, just a ripped-up section of chain-link people pulled apart years ago and no one ever fixed. Everyone knew it was there. Everyone used it. Marcus, of course, thought we should go in. Said it'd be fun to mess around, maybe freak the girls out a little. He was always chasing that kind of dumb thrill, and honestly, I was just drunk enough to go along with it. But right before we bent down to crawl through, I saw him. Someone was already there. Tall, too tall maybe, and wearing a hood. He was just standing on the other side of the opening. Didn't say anything clear, but I could hear the low, angry muttering. Couldn't make out the words. Didn't want to. The way his face was hidden made my skin crawl. I had that feeling, you know the one, like I shouldn't be looking at him for too long, like he'd notice, like eye contact was somehow dangerous. Marcus laughed it off, said it was probably some freshman trying to act tough. He ducked under the fence without hesitation. But that guy didn't move, not even a step, didn't turn, didn't follow, and the thing that keeps sticking in my head, what if he wasn't supposed to be there either? The second we were through the fence, it was like stepping into a different world. The air changed, quieter, heavier, no more stadium lights, just whatever scraps of moonlight slipped through the trees. The woods behind Easton High were always kind of creepy, not because of stories or anything, just because they were dense and forgotten. No trails, no signs, just overgrown brush and busted branches. Marcus and I got this genius idea to run ahead and scare the girls. Classic move, right? Drunk teenage boys thinking we're hilarious. We sprinted down the little hill, weaving between trees like we knew where we were going. We ducked behind a thick cluster, trying to stifle our laughs, waiting for the girls to freak out and call our names. But Marcus stopped laughing first, just froze. He nudged me real sharp and motioned without a word. I turned, and that's when I saw it. At first I thought it was a tree, just something tall and narrow standing between two others. But it wasn't. It was a person. A woman, I think. Taller than she should have been, just standing there. Not swaying, not breathing, still. And even though the woods were quiet, I didn't hear her come up. I didn't hear anything. Then she spoke. I don't even want to call it a voice. It didn't come from her mouth. It came from everywhere. Like the trees were saying it, just a few words, but they cracked through me like ice water. I couldn't move, couldn't think, and then she started getting bigger, closer, but her feet didn't move. No steps, no crunching leaves, just forward. I don't remember deciding to run. We just did, like our bodies figured it out before our minds could. We found the girls not long after we bolted. They were yelling, freaked out, probably thinking we'd ditched them on purpose. And to be honest, that was the plan. At least it started that way. But the second we saw their faces, we didn't even try to joke about it. We just told them to move, get out, back to the car, now. They were confused, stumbling after us, asking what was wrong. We didn't answer, couldn't. I think I was still half expecting that thing or person or whatever to just float out behind us at any second. That pressure was still on my back, like being watched but worse. Not eyes on you watched. Known, like something already understood what you were going to do next. It wasn't until we got to the car, doors locked, breathing heavy in that small, stale space, that any of us spoke. Marcus was the first to say anything, and it wasn't even a full sentence, just bits and pieces. He couldn't finish thoughts. That's when I knew something was seriously wrong. Marcus doesn't get rattled. Not like that. The girls thought we were trying to prank them still, just dragging it out too long. I think one of them even laughed, like a nervous reaction. But then Bree started crying. Not loudly, not dramatically, just that kind of silent cry that leaks out when your brain can't catch up with your body. We stayed there, parked in that back lot, watching the edge of the woods through the windshield. Nothing moved, not a branch, not a shadow, no footsteps, no voice, like none of it had ever happened. But it had. We all knew it. None of us said it out loud, but we knew something had changed. That wasn't just some drunk night anymore. That was something else. That summer, I went back to the same job I'd taken the last couple years, custodian at Hartwell High. Not glamorous, but it paid more each summer, and I didn't have to deal with customers or uniforms, just brooms and lawn equipment. Most days were slow. Just me, a couple older guys who didn't talk much, and an empty building that somehow always felt too big when no one else was in it. I was out in the courtyard mowing the grass one afternoon. It was hot enough to blur the edges of things, the way the air shimmers just above the pavement. I remember zoning out, the mower buzzing beneath me, when something in my peripheral made me look up. Second floor, math wing window. Someone was standing there. At first, I thought it was just a reflection. Then I realized it wasn't. It was a woman, older I think, just standing at the window, still as stone. Short curly hair, face kind of lost in the glare on the glass. But she was definitely watching. Or maybe she wasn't. Maybe she couldn't even see me. I waved awkwardly, like an idiot. She didn't move, didn't blink. I didn't keep staring. Something about it just felt wrong. I went inside and found my boss, told him someone was upstairs. He looked at me like I'd asked if ghosts got paid time off. We went up there together, and of course, nothing. All the doors were locked, lights off, no footprints, no signs of anyone having been in there at all. He shrugged it off, blamed the heat, told me to drink water. Maybe he was right, maybe I imagined it, but the chill I felt wasn't heat stroke. It was that deep, cold kind, the kind that doesn't come from outside. It was near the end of my shift, one of those quiet afternoons where everything starts blending together. I was on the second floor, pushing the mop down the hallway like I'd done 100 times already that summer. Lights were on, every classroom door propped open. I liked it that way. Made it feel less like I was completely alone in the building. I had music playing off my phone, just something low background noise to break up the silence. I wasn't really listening. I was just going through the motions. Room by room, floor by floor. Then I heard it, a voice, a woman's voice. It cut through the music, not loud, not whispered either, just clear, firm, like someone speaking directly to me. I couldn't even tell you what she said now. It's like my brain didn't save the words, just the feeling they left behind. But I knew that it was meant for me. There was no one else around to hear it. I stopped the music immediately. The silence that followed didn't feel natural. It was heavy, charged, like the air was waiting for something to happen. I stood there for what felt like a long time, trying to convince myself I was imagining things. Eventually, I moved, started checking the rooms. Every one of them. I even looked under desks, behind cabinets, anywhere someone could hide. Nothing, just that same empty, too quiet stillness. I told my boss. Again, told him I heard something this time. He gave me that same look, said I should call it a day and get some rest. And I did, because what else was I supposed to say? That I was hearing things now, that maybe whatever Marcus and I saw that night in the woods never really left the school. I don't know, maybe it never did,